Anybody have questions?
Yeah, I had a question. I last week bought the new laptop M2 Max laptop, and I got Ventura installed on it. My old laptop was 8 years old, wouldn't run Ventura, so I can only run Monterey on it. And everything went well. I used Migration Assistant. I actually installed all the applications from scratch without Migration Assistant so that I got the versions that were compatible with the new operating system. And everything was working fine, except for one thing. And I noted, and I bought a brand new external drive to do Time Machine with. And it just wouldn't do automatic backups to my new drive. It would do manual backups, yes, and all the files were there, and so I was doing manual backups. But on my old laptop, I had this app called Time Machine Editor, and it let you schedule the backups at your leisure. So I looked on the internet to see if there was a version compatible with Ventura, and sure enough, the newest version of Time Machine Editor is for Ventura. And so I downloaded it, and now it works fine. I could do hourly backups every other hour, every 4 hours, every 10 hours, every day, once a day, twice a day, 3 times a day. It has all these features. And actually, I made a little PDF, 2-page PDF that shows how that works. I don't know if you could put that on.
Send it to me. Usually if people can't make backups with, first of all, I would never, ever have Time Machine run using your custom schedule. It's designed to work on its own schedule.
But it doesn't do it.
Well, yes, but you see, there's something that you probably didn't do. Time Machine, the drive needs to be formatted. When you plugged it in, did you format it?
It was already formatted APFS.
Yes, but it needs to be APFS case sensitive.
Oh.
And if it's not formatted APFS case sensitive, it won't work right. It won't actually do the backups properly. So when you plug it in for the very first time and you launch Time Machine and point it at it, Time Machine, or even before then, when it sees the external drive, your Mac should offer to format it as a Time Machine drive. And whatever you do, don't cancel that. You should let it do that. And if it wasn't formatted as APFS case sensitive, you might want to go back and do that. Because the reason why that's necessary is that when it's backing stuff up, it's backing up just staggering amounts of stuff, including things that you can't see. And Unix itself is case sensitive. You don't notice it because Apple has, for the Mac operating system, they make it case insensitive, so that if you have uppercase A's and lowercase a's and they sort, they'll still sort in alphabetical order. But for the Time Machine backup, it has to be APFS case sensitive. And actually, I'm not even sure if that's, actually, I've got a Time Machine backup drive right here. I shall ask it what it says it is.
So you can't do that after the fact and put the case in. I'd have to reformat it?
Unless it says, the easiest way to find out is to click on the drive once, say Command I to bring up get info. And if it says APFS case sensitive, then you're in good shape. And if not, then yeah, you really do need to reformat it. I'm going to share my screen because that way I can show you. This is my Time Machine drive, which is over here behind this thing that I can't see right now. This is where's my Time Machine? This thing says time travel is my Time Machine drive. And yes, that's a Star Trek Starfleet logo there. But anyway, you'll see up here it says APFS case sensitive.
Oh, okay.
And that is when people say I plugged in the drive and it didn't work, the first thing they didn't do was they didn't reformat the drive. You should never, ever, ever, ever take a drive. In fact, I don't even take computers. When I buy a new computer, the very first thing I do is I reformat it, because I don't know what's on the drive. Now, if you don't have a fast internet and you reformat your Mac, that could be you could be in a world of hurt, because you need to download the new operating system afterwards, and that's kind of difficult if you just
Well, I haven't had trouble other than not having the backups work.
No, if you have a brand new Mac, I wouldn't worry about it. I'm just saying that I used to do that because I used to do security for the government, and that was part of our protocol. I can't really tell you the details, but we had good reason to want to do it that way. So we reformatted everything as soon as it came in, no matter what, and just blew away what was on top of it. On PCs, for example, PCs just come loaded with a bunch of adware. If you go into Best Buy and you buy a Windows machine, it comes with a demo version of McAfee that expires after 90 days. And in the meantime, it yells at you to update the subscription, and you get ads from whoever, like if you buy it from ACS, you'll get ads from ACS. And Microsoft Windows itself has ads in it. If you bring up Microsoft, it says, you really want to be part of our Xbox family, don't you? No, I don't. No, I don't. So,
Okay. Well, I guess I've only got a week's worth of data on the backup, so I could easily reformat it and not lose much.
You won't lose anything, because remember, it's not an archive, it's a backup. It backs up what you have. It's not an archive. If you want an archive,
That's right. I won't lose anything.
You won't lose anything.
Yeah.
So,
in fact, I had made changes and updates and things like that. So everything's done now, kind of, except that. So it'll be easy to reformat it, case sensitive. And then you're saying it should work automatically at that point.
you still have to tell Time Machine, you have to point it to it and say, use that. But
yeah, oh yeah, I did that, right? Yeah,
but
and I didn't realize that, when it came out of the box, it said, "Oh, Mac ready," And
well, keep in mind that Time Machine, you use this 8-year-old utility with Time Machine. Time Machine has changed drastically since then. The operating system is different. The processor is different. The disk drive formatting is different.
everything's different.
It's not HFS plus anymore. It's
right.
It's
right.
APFS. So there's nothing at all that's in common with your old machine.
Oh no! I downloaded the new scheduler from the internet and it said Ventura.
Yeah, but I still once you do the initial update, the initial backup takes forever because it's backing up everything.
Right.
But after you do that, just ignore it. It backs up every hour. You'll never notice that it's backing it up.
Oh yeah, I have a 4 terabyte external drive.
Yeah, so don't do that. My Time Machine backup drive is a 4 terabyte. What is this thing? Toshiba that I got from Amazon. It's a solid state drive, $108 plus tax, license, dealer prep, so on and so forth. And it just backs up and I ignore it.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try that. Thank you.
So I actually had an answer for that.
Yeah, that was great. Thanks again.
Any other questions?
I have a question, that troubleshooting type question. In the last week, approximately the last week, both of our iPads have started disconnecting from the internet, one more than the other, but it happens once or twice an evening for no reason that we can determine.
Are you on Wave?
Yes.
Okay, that's your answer. See, another answer.
Yeah. Well, okay. Care to elaborate?
Kathleen and I have noticed we watch the news every night and we stream it via YouTube TV, which is Google. And we use YouTube TV because that way we can get Seattle news stations. And for the last 6-7 months, sometime between 5 and 7:30 every day, every single day, including weekends, we lose the internet for a few minutes. And usually right in the middle of the news. So, and the latest news from South Florida is, and then you wait 5 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever, for you to find out what happened in South Florida, because it's just, it just stalls. We do know that in our local area, we live in Sunland. Wave has been running fiber here so that instead of having one fiber bundle come into our neighborhood, they have two. The way Wave and everybody else works it, they run a big pipe, and it's not a pipe, but it's a wire, but they run a big pipe into your neighborhood, and then they split it off so that if you get up at 4:30 in the morning, you usually have great internet speeds because nobody's on, but around dinner time, you have a whole bunch of people get on and it stalls. This is not, probably not that reason, but it could be. We just think that the day shift leaves at Wave, and the guys for the evening haven't come on and checked the boxes, or who knows what they're doing. Maybe they're plugging in their Xboxes, we don't know. But it seems to happen at a fairly standard time every night. And we don't know what they're doing, but we do know that locally they are putting in additional cables. I expect a fairly great turmoil in the internet provider ranks in the next few years, because the infrastructure, I can't remember what the Infrastructure Act is. One of the things it has is that wants to bring broadband to everybody in the country, and into the inner cities and into rural areas and so on and so forth. And broadband in Clallam County is, it's broadband because the industry says it's broadband. If you have 2 megabits per second or faster, the industry considers it broadband. Now in Korea, broadband is considered gigabyte, which is 500 times faster than what the industry in the United States says it is. But they're trying to increase the speed. Well, if you think about the billions of dollars that they say they're going to invest in this, is that money coming to you? Is that coming to me? No, it's going to the internet providers. It's going to Comcast and Cox and Wave and those people. But in order for them to qualify it, they have to show that they're actually building it out. I'll give you a story. About 20 years ago, Verizon started advertising they had Fios. Now, Fios is just a trade name for fiber optic. You could get fiber optic at home with Fios. And they started advertising this heavily on TV. Kathleen and I signed up for it when we were in Columbia, Maryland. And when at the time that we left, we were getting gigabit down and gigabit up a load to our home. And it didn't cost that much more than what some people were doing for DSL. But about 10 years ago, the powers that be at Verizon decided they were going to milk their cow, and they decided to stop expanding their network, and they were just going to sell it to new people into areas that they'd already built out. So they weren't going to expand anymore. They were just going to sell it to more customers in whatever customer area they happened to be. And they were going to pocket the money that they would have done on investment. So they kept on advertising Fios, but they didn't actually start building it out anymore. They just froze it in place. And a lot of the companies have done that. So after they go to the high density parts of New York City and Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia and Chicago, they just stopped. Well, people in the suburbs don't like that. And as the wealth hollowed out the cities, as people moved into the suburbs, then the people in the suburbs didn't have high speed, but the people in the cities did. And the infrastructure bill, among other things, is setting standards that you must be doing this sort of work in order to qualify for these funds. And so you're going to see a lot of effort on the parts of Verizon and Comcast and AT&T and everybody else to show that they really deserve to get some of this infrastructure funds. It's sort of like when the highway bill comes out. Does the state of Washington get the highway money? No. Who gets the highway money? Contractors, the people who actually have the bulldozers and cement trucks and so on, of course, they get the money. And the people in order to qualify for this infrastructure money are going to have to show that they're actually building out broadband into areas that were not previously served. So if they've been sitting on their butts for 10 years, they have to get up and actually do something. I suspect there's going to be quite a bit of churn over the next few years because you know, they want profits, but they also want somebody else to pay as much of the cost as possible.
Could I ask a related question?
Sure.
Is it typical on the peninsula for Wave, for example, to have their main fiber pipe or cable underground?
That's a good question. The answer is it depends upon where you were located.
Well, the reason I ask is that we live in a relatively new development, and when Wave came out, they pulled wire out of the ground. I mean, it was in the wire, the pipe from the house was already underground to a junction box. So they had to pull the wire from the junction, but that box itself is connected to something underground.
Yes. It depends upon where you're located. Where we're located, all the utilities are underground. So there are no telephone poles or utility poles in our development. But in other places where there is, it's on the pole. The good news, bad news about the poles are easier to put up and you can do it faster because you don't have to cut streets and so on and so forth. But the bad news is they wear out and they get damaged and cars run into them. So long term, it's fast. It's faster and easier long term to have it underground. But you see, the quarterly profits don't take into account the fact that 10 years later, your company's going to be making money. So if at all possible, utility companies will run it above ground. But if it's already installed because the development was set up that way, they put it underground. And when they pull that stuff from underground, if you've already got a cable, what they do is they just tie their new cable onto the old cable and they pull it. They're using the old cable as a stringer. So it should be fairly easy. They might have ripped it out, but really they were just taking advantage of what was already there to restring their new cable.
I'm a bit nervous because they're within half a mile of us. There are a number of projects, and this apparently is all over the city, where they're digging up the street, and I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're replacing water lines or storm sewers or whatever, but I'm nervous that while they're doing that, they may inadvertently cut through one of these pipes. I don't think that's happened. I mean, it sounds to us like what you just described with Wave and daily interruptions for whatever reason. That seems to be what we're experiencing, but all this construction makes me a bit nervous that there might be something worse down the pipe.
Well, Kathleen and I have commented that it seems like if you're going north on Fifth Avenue, they finally get it paved, and then the next week you come down there and they're digging new trenches. And I'm picking on Fifth Avenue because we take it fairly often. I don't know what they're doing. If I wanted to, I could probably call up the city engineer or go onto the Clallam County website, but I don't know what they're doing. Yes. Somebody just asked me, how do you sign up? And the answer is I'm still putting together the sign-in sheet. So I haven't got that far yet. I noticed a number of people don't actually have their cameras turned off. So we're being quiet today. What did I call today? what's the name of it? Bring your favorite app. Okay. I'm trying to make the sign in form and I'm trying to remember what I called it. Okay. Any other questions?
I have a
Yes,
question. Paul here.
yes.
Okay, when I plug in my iPhone to the computer doesn't seem to recognize it. It doesn't show up on the screen. What's the problem there?
When you plug your iPhone in,
Yes. Shouldn't it
Uh,
show up on the screen as a device?
it can, but you have to do something, and exactly what you do with it. I don't
It
remember.
would ask you if you wanted to use it as a storage device and you would answer yes, but I don't know anymore.
I think you turn on screen mirroring. I might want to do that tonight, and I should have checked on that beforehand, but there's if you go to the control panel, one of the icons, if you've added it, is screen mirroring. You turn on screen mirroring and then it'll show up on your desktop. Screen mirroring looks like two rectangles right next to each other. It's about the middle of the screen there.
Looks like,
You get
oh,
that.
that,
Yeah, you get that by pulling down from the top up here.
okay, right.
But if you haven't added it, it may not be there by default, so you might have to add it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Shorten the URL. Control C. Responses. Great. All right. And sign-in sheet. And yes, I was making a sign-in sheet while talking to people. And I, of course, screwed that up. So I have to go back here and get my link again. Why does it have to be difficult? No, it's because Google's not sharing the clipboard with my machine. So I'm going to mail this to myself. I don't know. I think it just hates me.
You telling me not
Send. Anyway, while I'm waiting for this to show up, I shall well, that was not useful. It sent me a letter, but it didn't send the form. Why won't it? Zoom hates me. Paste. There it is. And it's still not pasting. That was too difficult. Okay. So now there's a sign in form.
Oh, there it is.
It helps if I do this in advance. Anyway, any questions other than my relative competency?
I'm not sure I understand.
Yeah, I know. My watch just said I'm incompetent, but details. Indirectly. Any other questions? Well, I have a question for you. Apple issued an emergency update, and how many of you installed it on your watch, on your iPhone, your iPad, your Mac?
Well, I did iPhones and
I did.
iPads, but I didn't do my watch, and I didn't can't do my Mac because it can't get any more updates anymore because it's too old.
This latest update for some things went back to Monterey and Big Sur.
Yeah,
So-
mine's before that. Catalina.
Well, okay.
Me too.
Are you talking about the rapid response update?
Yes.
Yeah, I installed it on everything when it was the A version, and then they pulled that and sent out the C version a day or two later.
But
Yeah.
that was really quick. If you installed the C on the iPhone anyway, was really quick.
Yeah, that's because they changed basically 100 characters of the update. So it was really quick. And in
And-
fact, I didn't even notice that my watch was updated until my watch told me, hey, I've been updated. Any questions?
I was going to say, I have it on automatic, so I assume it did it. And I remember seeing something about it. I'm not sure whether it was on my phone or on my computer.
Even though you can tell on your computer, if you go up to the about this Mac and it comes up with the version, if you're running Ventura, it'll have a C after it. That means that it's got the security update. And on the iPhone and iPad, it's a little bit harder to figure out what it is. And on the watch, it's really difficult. But I mention this simply because I normally just let the Mac update itself and I don't care. But for security updates, I update immediately. And for major operating system updates, I have a cycle, like there's going to be a new version of the Mac operating system this fall. What's the name of it? Sonoma?
Ventura? No.
Sonoma.
Sonoma.
Yeah, Sonoma is the one's coming out. I keep on forgetting it because everyone says, oh, don't you like Sonoma? Well, I don't drink wine, so not really. For operating system updates, I always update them almost immediately because I want to know how it works so that people, when they start asking me questions, I'll have an answer. So I'm usually quite quick on updates.
And we appreciate that.
Paul,
Yeah.
you had a question?
Question, yes. I did the update, but on my phone, it only shows iOS 16.5.1. It doesn't have the C. And I looked as soon as I updated it, and that's what it showed. And I thought, oh well, maybe it isn't actually registering the C on the iPhone.
Let me see what it says here on mine.
Yeah, mine doesn't show the C on my, but it does on the iPhone, but not the watch.
Mine doesn't
On
show
the
it
watch,
my
I don't
iPhone.
remember what it does, but and my internet is slow because I'm running a Zoom session, so I'll just let this scenery cogitate. But yeah, the C was because they had an A update and it caused unable to check. Okay. Be that
It
way.
does show the C. If you,
Yeah, it does show
on the
the
i-
C.
on the iPhone, if you go to General Settings, General Software Update,
I don't know
It'll
if you
show
can see
you-
it, but it says
Oh.
It'll show you what version.
iOS 16.5.1 and then inside of
C.
parentheses C.
Hmm.
Okay. I should ask our president if there's
okay.
and treasurer if there are any things they would like to say right now.
So sorry, I'm just doing the form. Let me close it. Okay, I just did the sign-in form.
Oh, good.
Welcome, everybody. No, I have nothing to add, and there's nothing new from Treasury in regards to any numbers changing. So it's all yours, Lawrence.
Okay. For today, we were going to talk about, someone suggested, and I don't remember who suggested it, that we talk about our favorite apps. And I thought that was a splendid idea because that way I didn't have to prepare anything. But it's also interesting just to find out what other people are doing with their machines. I was talking to this guy in Maryland a couple days ago, more than a couple days ago, it was last week. And his favorite Mac application is a tool for making maps. Now he's a geographer, so that's not too surprising, but he works at my former place of work. He works at NOAA, and National Ocean Service makes all the nautical charts for the United States. And he's been working for several years to come up with a workflow that can be certified as a workflow for NOAA maps. It's really, really complicated process. And the a standard nautical chart's got like 30 to 40 layers of information that you compress down onto this map. And it's complicated and expensive. And so he's really proud of himself, and he was telling me about this, and about 5 minutes into his explanation, my eyes started glazing over because while it was fascinating, I am not a GIS expert, and I had no idea what he was talking about half the time. So it's just interesting to see what people do with their machines. So does anyone have anything they'd like to talk about first?
Well, I'm the one that made the suggestion last week, so I made sure and did my homework. I have a bunch, so I wouldn't want to hog the thing and do all of them, but I'll do a couple to start with if that would be reasonable.
Do you want to show your screen? I can set it up so you can.
Well, probably no, it's on my phone and I'm logged in on my computer, so but I can talk about it and tell you what it does, give you the name, and if I know if there's a subscription, like that kind of thing. So okay, so the first ones I got have to do with nature. So I have them in a folder on my phone called Nature. Imagine that. Anyway, I have Merlin Bird ID, MERLIN, and it identifies birds, and it does that by sound. So it'll use your speaker and it'll listen and hear the bird, and it'll make a darn good guess about what it is. It also, you can put in the size. It has several listed there, like hummingbird size, pigeon size, and eagle size, or something like that, and you pick which ones you want there. And then it asks you what color or colors it is, and you put that in. And then what actions? Is it flying? Is it on a tree? Is it on the ground? What's it doing? And you tell it that, and it will give you a good guess based on your location. And then the third way that it decides, helps you determine what the bird is it lets you either take or choose a photo. So you could take a photo and it'll try to analyze that, or it'll offer to show you a bunch and you can tell it if any of those match. So, and it does a good job, especially on the sounds, and it has a bunch of their calls and things that you can play back. And if it annoys them greatly, you'll know that you got the right bird.
So it can base the identification on a photo you take of it, or on the sound?
Yes.
Huh.
I do the sound because usually I can't get a good photo of it before it's already gone or whatever. But and I haven't tried the photo version. I just saw that you could do that, and it'll either let you take one or choose one from its database. Again, it's based on your location. It'll use your GPS to see where you are. So that way it won't include Australian birds, for instance.
East Coast birds, yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of these have databases for you choose whether you want to include West Coast versus East Coast versus all of it and that sort of thing. So that's a choice that you make. And I can't remember about Merlin. Merlin has no subscription. So, and I can't remember, once you get an app, you can no longer tell the price if it's free or whatever, because that's hidden from you when you try to go back and look at it again. So I don't remember if it cost anything, but I don't think it did. And if it was cheap.
Yeah, it was free.
Oh, was it? Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
and I use it too.
Yeah.
I could comment on that on the microphone. It's really sensitive. I'll hear a bird and I'll hold it up and it'll give me, it might give me 3 or 4 birds, two or three that I don't even hear,
Yeah.
and but when the bird sings, it lights up the heading. So it's really a useful app. That'd be one of my favorite ones too. Yeah.
Yeah. When I tried to get one the other day, I got the bird that it was, and I can't remember what it was now, but it also, a towhee, I think it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, it also got a hummingbird that I didn't even know was there at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's my first one. And another one along the same vein is Picture This, but Picture This has a $30 a year subscription fee. And I don't like that. So I stopped using Picture This. And now I have another one called Seek instead. It's just SEEK. It identifies birds, plants, and animals, and there's no subscription fee. So I like that better than the $30 a year for Picture This. Picture This is good for plants, and it's quite good at it. And it also will diagnose problems with, for instance, your houseplants. It also will help you identify insects, trees, and of course, birds. Seek, I think it will help you try to identify just about anything, birds, plants, animals, probably not buildings. But I think it does like bugs and things as well. So that's my 3 to start with. They're all easy to use, especially Merlin. Picture This, it has a bunch of different screens that you have to go through to have it work well for you. And I have more, but I will give somebody else an opportunity to enlighten us with their choices now.
I'm pretty sure Kathleen was going to download Merlin because we were stopped at downtown. There was a bird that we could hear was in a tree up on Washington. We had no idea what it was, but it sounded really pretty. And so we speculated, and she started hitting me because I have strange speculations, but knowing what it was would be a nice thing.
Yeah. Yep.
Anyone else?
I would like to ask, since we're doing this and there are useful apps and so forth, and you might, for example, tell us more about the Maps app. I wondered if we would consider having special interest groups that would focus, where those of us who are particularly interested in one app might get together outside of our regularly scheduled meetings. For example, the app I like best is iMovie, but it's not the one I use the most. It's just the one that I find that I get the most pleasure out of using. But I'm decidedly an amateur in terms of knowing what it can do and what the best ways might be to do the things that I sort of know how to do, like, for example, use the green screen. Anyway, everybody knows about iMovie, so I'll mention one app that I've used, which is, you can have a subscription to it, but it's one of those deals where you have to either pay by the year or by the month. And I don't use it enough to make that worth subscribing to. It's called Footpath, Footpath. And it's like Gaia, I think is the name of another fancy competitor. You know, you can download maps, topographical maps and all that sort of thing. But mostly it will show, for example, like it shows all the Olympic Discovery Trail stuff. And it shows most of the hiking trails in the Olympic National Park. So, and it will tell you the distance and the elevation and all that sort of thing. I walk around town, you know, just because my doctor says I have to exercise my back. So I walk around town and you can save up to 5 in the free version. You can save up to 5 routes, and then, you know, you can change the 5, but it's handy because it shows you the street layouts, and, you know, it'll tell you what the distance is. You just trace along it, and it includes almost all the streets. I mean, I haven't found any street that it doesn't include yet. And it has most of the trails around here, and, you know, you can trace along those, and it'll tell you altitude and distance and so forth. And if you have location turned on, then it'll show you, you know, the GPS thing will show you where you are on the trail, which can be handy. For example, we got lost one time before I understood how to use it. And after we had clambered through the woods and fortunately intersected the trail, we ran into a fellow who had gone along the same route that we did. Where we got lost, he didn't, because he was using the GPS, which showed where the trail should be. It was in the middle of a bramble patch, and it was all overgrown, so we couldn't see it.
Oh,
And he couldn't see it, but he could see where he was and where the trail should go. So he just followed that on his phone and got through it without having to scramble through the woods. So, you know, I felt kind of foolish for not understanding how to do that, but at least now I do. And anyway, it's a very nice app. It's in the app.
What was the
store.
name of that app again?
Footpath,
Footpath.
Footpath. Yeah, it's in the App Store.
Thank you.
Yeah, my 2 cents.
since we're on that topic, I'll get to you in a second, Paul. Since we're on that general topic, I use Strava. Strava has a paid version as well as a free version. I just use the free version. And when I ride my bike or I go for a walk, I just leave my phone in my pocket. I don't bother to look at it, because if I can see where I'm going, I don't care. But among other things, it has a complication that I can put on my phone, on my watch, and I can start and stop it from my phone, from my wristwatch. And it maps out my path so that if I'm riding my bike, it'll tell me how far I went and give me a map of where I went, tell me the relative elevation and the distance and the speed. And while I'm using it, I don't pay any attention to it, but it gives me a record of my walk or my bike ride. And Strava has 2 versions, and they constantly ping you to upgrade it to the professional version, but the free version is fine with me. And the nice thing about the maps is I can email them to Kathleen, or she can email me her maps so that she can show that she went half a mile farther than I did, or was 2 minutes faster, or whatever she wants to. But it's a different purpose than Footpath, because it doesn't guide me. If I'm going down the street, I don't need the guide, but I would like to have a record of how far it was and the distance and elevation and the time. So that's handy for me. Paul, you had something to say?
Yeah, well, I use Gaia, and that's a good one. It does show some of the trails and things. We use it when we're mountain biking. I use it when I'm mountain biking, and like you say, it gives you where it gives you a track. Now, I had a question about footpaths. Does that track where you've been? The footpath?
Well, no, it's just, not the free version, just shows the route you choose. I mean, for example, it shows all the trails in the area, and then you use your finger and or I guess you could use a pencil on an iPad. You drag along where you want to go, and
Okay.
it'll tell you, mile by mile. It does it by miles. I don't know if you can do it in kilometers, but I don't think it'll do finer gradations than a mile. So, for example, if it's a 7-mile trail, it'll tell you the entire length, like 7.25, and it'll put a mile marker at each mile from whichever end you start. But I've found it, my wife's wristwatch, or the Apple Watch, paired to her iPhone, will give me almost all of the information that Lawrence was just saying he gets from Gaia. I mean, there's a map there. It shows the elevation, it shows all that stuff.
Well, I will definitely check it out.
Gaia is a subscription, isn't it?
It's both.
Okay, so you either pick the pro version or the free version?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
How do you spell Gaia?
Gaia, Gaia. Gaia. It's Greek. It means earth. It's the god of earth. If you're Greek.
I was wondering what that meant.
Anyone else?
Well, I've got more if people are.
Well, I may have one. It's kind of more of a scientific or programming tool, but I like BB Edit for program. I program in Perl and Unix, and it really shows you the syntax by color of all the commands. And if you spell it wrong, it catches it for you. So I like that. And another one called Tech Shop. And so I tutor algebra and have equation. I like to write equations in PowerPoint, but PowerPoint is not good at typesetting, the radical sign and the integral sign and the differentials and things of that nature. But Tech Shop does it perfectly, and then you can copy and paste the answer into PowerPoint. So it's a real handy tool.
Does it copy it in as editable, or is it an image?
No. Let's see. Is it an image? It's PDF, and then it makes a PDF out of the clipboard, and you paste the PDF image into your so it's not really text. You can't really edit it except in Tech Shop.
Okay.
But once you get the final looking equation, it looks gorgeous. Absolutely, the fonts and the size ratios are just perfect for like it was a professionally typeset page. So it really is a handy tool, and it's free. it's in the Apple Store, as well as BB Edit. Both of them are in the Apple Store.
The guy who invented PDF, I can't remember his name right now. He's one of the founders of Adobe. He had founded Adobe in order to develop typesetting languages for mathematics. So Adobe now is known for art, but He was a mathematician and he wanted to typeset mathematics. And Nicholas Kuntz, who does all the programming books, he invented a language specifically for typesetting to typeset his books.
Oh, yeah. Another thing I noticed about Tech Shop allows you to typeset a movie, an MP4 file into the page. But if it becomes a PDF, Apple's preview will not show the movie. It just shows a blank spot. But Adobe's Reader will play the movie perfectly on a slideshow. It's really has a better, more advanced feature than preview in that respect.
Is it available for iPad as well as Mac, or just Mac?
No, it's both Mac and iPad.
Cool.
But it would be better with a keyboard in the iPad rather than trying to do it on the screen with your finger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I use it on my laptop. I don't use it on my iPad. Anyway, that's my two. Go ahead. If you've got a couple more, Ron.
Ah,
I have a couple.
Oh,
or I
there you
have
go.
one anyway.
Yeah, go for it.
Libby from the library. You can download books, either audio or written. Just depends on what you want. And they don't have everything, but they have a lot. And I listen to books all the time. So that is one of my favorite apps.
it's
And it's
L-I.
LIBBY. And just go to the local library, North Olympic Library System, and you can download it, and then you're good to go.
Question, would the Apple's book app read it or no?
No, Libby is its own self-contained thing. The reason why libraries endorse it is that it allows them to deal with copyright, because you don't actually keep the book, unlike Apple's books. You actually own the book. With Libby, you basically check it out.
Right, and you have a time limit to read it. And you can get on a list. You can, sign up for books, and it will tell you when they're available, and then you can download it if you want, or you can tell them to hold it for another week or whatever. I'm on a long list of different books, and they come, and you generally have 2 weeks to read them. So, there you go.
So, and if you don't get it read in that length of time, then do you have to wait your turn again, I assume, before you can get it again and read the rest?
It depends on the book. I've had some that came close to the due date, and they were automatically renewed.
Oh.
And yeah, so I don't know. I have not run into that problem.
Yeah, Olympic is a very kind and warm and fuzzy library system. I had one book checked out that my mother got ill, and I was busy for a couple of weeks, and I was going to go to the library to renew it. And I looked at my email, and the library system renewed it automatically. So it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way all the time, but they're definitely a warm and fuzzy library system.
Maybe it depends on if there's somebody else waiting for it or something. Or
Probably so. Yeah.
Sure. And you can return them early if you finish it. I mean, there's a button for that, and it will show you how many people are waiting for the book.
Oh, pretty good.
Have you found that the selection is extensive?
Yeah, for the most part, and popular books tend to get there, and you can always also do kind of like a wish list. So I mean, there are some books that I would like to read that they don't have. but, you know, so it goes.
Libby.
I'm putting the link to the library system for this into the chat right now.
Okay.
Oh, somebody asked me for the sign in for the meeting, so let's see if I can put that in again.
It's up there.
It's up there, yeah.
If they came in late, they might not see it. So I shall see if I can copy it and put it back in again. And I'm having trouble with copying. It doesn't like me today. I'll worry about it some other time.
Lawrence, I just put it in
Oh, okay, good, thank you.
right after Libby, the forms.gle, etc. is the link.
My copy paste skills seem to be defective today. I was using I have a wireless keyboard for my computer, and it's charged via a lightning cable. And I forget that. And yesterday I was typing away, and in mid-paragraph it stopped working, and I couldn't figure out why. And I thought there was something wrong with the computer. And then I thought, you know, it's probably been a while since I charged it. Sometimes those little advantages of electronics fail you because usually your fault. But anyone else? Kathleen wants to talk about timer. Kathleen? Oh.
So on my watch, I have something called timer, and I use that all the time. It's useful for, like, if I'm doing laundry, and I'll set it so that it'll remind me when things are done, or I'll use it to set a time to leave if I'm gonna have to leave and I'm in the middle of doing something, it'll do that. But you can both put in a custom time, or you can select from existing times.
Yeah, you can't really see it, but they're pre-selected.
This way.
I need to put it on the opposite side of my wrist. There are pre-selected times that you can pick.
Right.
And I realize they're probably upside down, but all you have to do is just tap it, and then it'll set one of those times. Or if you want it for 45 minutes, and you can type in 45 minutes. The other thing, a related thing, is the reminders.
Yeah.
The reminders is to remind to go get gasoline, to go do this, that, and the other thing. But you can set up a reminder to not only tell you a time to go do this, like do this on Tuesday, you can also set it with GPS coordinates. So if you go into reminders, it doesn't work so well on your Mac if you have a desktop machine, but if you have a phone, you can go into reminders and you can tell it a place. So it'll remind you when you get to Costco to buy cat food. In our case, that wouldn't do us much good because we don't have a cat, but it'll, when you get to that location, it reminds you that you're supposed to do that. So go to Walgreens and pick up your prescription, go to QFC and remember to get milk. And as you approach that, and it'll buzz your wrist on your watch or your phone about, I'd say, half a block to a block away. It'll buzz it to remind you that there's something there that you want to do. So between reminders and the timer, and then just alarms that, have an alarm to do something, those are probably some of the most commonly used tools that we use on our iPhones and Apple Watches.
Yeah, the watches have to.
Timers also has favorites. You can set favorites, and it'll have another little separate list for them too.
Yeah, and Kathleen just reminded me, when I said that it buzzes the phone, it'll it'll rattle the phone back and forth. But if your watch on your wrist will vibrate, when you're using Apple Maps to go someplace and you're supposed to turn left, your watch can't tell you that you need to turn left, but it'll vibrate to tell you that you're supposed to turn. And I recently found out that it has a signal for left and right. So it's like if it's going one direction, it's one vibrate. If you're going the other direction, it's two. I don't happen to remember what those are, because as Kathleen will tell you, I never bother to follow directions anyway. So but,
I want to know, how do you tell when you're looking at an app in the Apple app store whether it costs money or not?
if it's in the App Store, it should list the price next to it if it costs money. Well, if you already own it, but
Yeah, but it varies if you're trying to get something.
yeah.
If you already own it, it just says it changes to open. But if you don't own it, then it'll show you either a get or it'll tell you the price.
Okay.
And also you can read down it if you're afraid that there might be a subscription involved, which
Mhm.
I don't like subscriptions. I have a bunch, but I don't like them. But if you read down through the description of the thing, it'll have a section on if it's compatible with your device and all that sort of thing. And in there it says price or cost or something like that, and it'll say yes or no. And then, or maybe it says paid. But anyway, if you click on that, it'll tell you, you know, like $4.99 a month or $60 a year, or you know, that sort of thing. So
This is an app on the App Store for your phone called Chart Maker. And right under the button that says Get, it says in tiny, tiny little print, in-app purchases, which means that you can download it for free. And sometimes the only thing you can do free is to download it, but in others you can at least get to play with it and decide whether or not it's something you want to spend money on. As an example, it's kind of the difference between Acrobat Reader and Acrobat. You can download Acrobat Reader from Adobe for free, but you can't use it to create new PDFs, whereas Acrobat, the full version of Acrobat, you can create PDFs, you can edit PDFs, you can do all kinds of things with PDFs. With Acrobat Reader, you can just read it. And some of the free versions, that's basically what you can do. You can look at something else that was done with that application, but you can't create something new, or they add extra features. Like with Strava, I was mentioning that it'll allow me to go out and bike around the neighborhood and draw me a map and tell me the change in elevation, my speed, and all kinds of things. But if I sign up for the pro version, it does more. Now, I personally can't think of what else that I want to do, so I don't know what I'm missing, but
Sometimes the pro version of those things allow you to compete against other people.
yeah.
So you can see all their times and your times and in real time.
You might have noticed from the hair on my head, what little I have, competition biking is not really in my list of ambitions. So the free version is fine for me.
I have another set of them I can share.
Sure.
We have Tide Pro, which if you're wondering, oh, the tides, I wonder if it's coming in or going out, and you can pull it up on your phone and it'll tell you what time the highs and lows are, and how far it's going to be, and all that sort of thing.
What was the name?
Tide Pro.
Tide Pro.
And I believe it was free, but I'm not certain. It might have been 99 cents or something like that, but there's no subscription. Okay, and then next one is relative for us. It's Watch Duty. And that one is a wildfire maps and alerts app. That might be a good one to have around, since we live so close to the national forest. And that was Watch Duty, and it was free as well. Then there's another one called Fairy Friend. Probably a lot of us, if you use the ferry very much, you just go to site and get your information there. But Ferry Friend has a really easy interface that lets you see the cameras and over the lines, and shows you what's going on, of course, what times they are, how far they're behind, if there's any alerts that you need to be aware of. And it's a really nice user interface.
Speaking of things for tides, I use something called, what is it called? It's called Ocean Watch. And Ocean Watch gives you tides and such. And the reason why I use that is that it allows me to put a complication. A complication is an extra feature on my Apple Watch so that I can just glance on my watch and it tells me that the tide right now is 8.1 feet above slack tide and it's going down. And why do I have this on my watch? Because I'm a photographer and the kinds of photographs that you can take at low tide are very different than the kinds that you can take at high tide. So if I want to go take pictures of birds, low tide's great. If I want to go take pictures of waves, high tides is much more interesting to me. So it's on my watch so I can look at it and say, oh, I should head to the beach.
So do you use photo pills by any chance?
Pardon me?
Photo pills, Pills?
No.
That has to
What was
do
the-
with, pardon me?
What was the name of the tide?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, the one I have is called Ocean Watch.
Ocean Watch. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, photo pills helps you set up. It used to be just for eclipses and times of the moon and where to be and what you could expect to see from that position and so on. But now it's grown to exponentially, and it's wonderful. I believe it's free, but if it isn't, there is no subscription. But it just gives you all kinds of information about pre-setting up locations. And, if you wanted to get that mountain peak so that the moon is coming up right behind it, for instance, it helps you plan all that stuff. And what time to be there and exact coordinates and all that sort of stuff. It's wonderful. And it has a lot of teaching type stuff in it too. A lot of extra videos. They just really go the extra mile for everything it does. And that wasn't even on my list to share.
Well, it's definitely on my list now.
Oh yeah,
What was the name of
you'll
it?
like it.
What's the name?
Photo pills. Two
Pills.
separate words. Okay, so let's see. There's one called altimeter that works just like an altimeter on an airplane or on a small airplane. Looks like that, has that dial, and it shows you what your altitude is. It's a really handy one as well. Another one that I really, really like is called Peak Finder. PEAK as in mountains and Finder. And it allows you to hold your phone or your iPad up against or towards in the direction of the hills, and it will make an outline along those hills and show you the name of each one of those hills, no matter how many layers. If it's hidden from you, it won't show you. Like, for instance, it just shows the mountains that are, if you look out there and if you can see a mountain, it will be listed. But if it's hidden by another or something, then it won't show you. It still has it in its database, but it won't show you. It'll tell you the names and I believe the altitudes. And this works, as far as I can tell, anywhere in the world, because I was in Australia and it certainly worked there.
Australia doesn't have any mountains, so
They have hills. Oh, they have glass mountains. That's mountains they have there. They're not mountains like we're used to, but
That's interesting. Yeah.
okay. And another one along with Peak Finder is Ship Finder. And that one allows you, if you look out in the bay and you see a ship out there that you're interested in or wondering about, you can point your phone towards it and it will do a good job of identifying it, where it's from, where it's going to, how much it weighs, what speed it's doing. It's all kinds of information. And marine traffic is another similar one to that. only it gives you even more information about them, only it gives you a head down or a airplane view of what you're seeing rather than looking straight out at it.
Okay.
And let's see, there's another one like Peak Finder that I like even better, but I don't trust. There's two things about it. It's called 3D Map and Peak ID, Peak Visor. Now this is $3.49 a month or $30 a year, but it's country of origin. I believe it was China. I'm not sure now. Maybe Korea or South Korea or something. I can't remember now. But anyway, it gave me pause before I wanted to continue using it once I found that out, because I don't trust, some of those companies that are associated with web type things.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody else want to take a turn? I got more if you want them.
I
Yes,
just,
Paul.
along the lines of reminders, when you were talking about those, I find that one of calendars, Apple's calendar app, one of the best features of it is to set alerts, which are reminders, which you can have pop up. It'll pop up on the lock screen and tell you, I usually set it for a day in advance and an hour in advance, but it'll pop up on the lock screen and remind you, tell you what the appointment is and where and whatever information you put in there about it. I find that very helpful.
You can
Yeah,
also set
thank you.
traffic up for it if you have a location put in for where your appointment is. It'll tell you what time you have to leave based on what the traffic is. I find it helpful.
It also lets you set up family accounts. So when I put something on the calendar, the default for me is for my family. So therefore it automatically goes to my wife's inbox for her calendar. And then it puts it on her calendar too, but she can, verify that she got it by checking it off and that sort of thing. But then we know when one of us already has something planned for the day or the week or the month or whatever.
Yeah.
That also works with CarPlay. If I got an appointment with the address in the appointment on the calendar, you get in your car approximately like whatever time it is, it tells you the travel time that it's going to take to get there. And if you get in your car within that travel time, it'll actually automatically put up the directions. It says you've got, and you don't even have to type it into the CarPlay. It just comes up and you just say go and it just starts the directions from the calendar on your iPhone. So that is an amazing thing. And it also, like you said, everybody in your family uses the one calendar. And so it goes on my wife's iPhone automatically and my laptop automatically and the iPad automatically.
Yep.
That's great application.
Yeah, it is. They did good.
Yeah.
I have a question. It's actually, am I interrupting somebody?
No, go ahead. No.
I was curious from everybody who's here tonight and online, a lot of people, well, I know Lawrence is a big one that refers a lot to his Apple Watch and all the things he uses for it. I was just curious from everybody that's on here now that has an Apple Watch, what was your biggest reason for getting it? And was it worth it? Do you feel like, was it fall detection? Was it that you can answer your phone from it? What made you like it, or was it worth it to you?
I got it on the basis of what Kathleen had told us a couple different times in SMUG.
Is that a lot of it, the medical alert kind of things?
Well, I've been considering getting an alert device in case I fell in the shower or between the kitchen and the living room. And I could never make up my mind. So I thought, if this does it, I'm in. So when I had to upgrade my phone before Verizon turned my old flip phone into a brick, I was offered a deal on the SE second generation, which is what I got. So the SE second generation does not do all the things that Kathleen had told us about, because it's not an Ultra. I wasn't going to spring for an Ultra, and I wanted to test the waters. But something I now do every day is second or third thing in the morning, certainly when I've started my first cup of coffee, I check to see how long I slept, how many steps I took yesterday, if my heart rate went below a certain number of beats per minute, which I have preset. And then there's something else that I always look at. But I can't remember. It will tell me if I've been exposed to sound levels over 100 decibels. So when the noisy pickup at the end of the truck goes by and I happen to be sitting on the front porch, it will record that I had a high level of exposure. So it's doing more things now, the watches, than 2 months ago even. I think because of updates to the iPhone operating system. I still haven't figured out what I'm paying Verizon for exactly for the iWatch connection. So it's half a mystery to me, but I do like the feedback for the heartbeat rate overnight and number of steps. Records that, but that's from the iPhone. So if I get up in the middle of the night, I have to be carrying the iPhone in order for it to record and transmit to the watch later. That's all.
On the part of what you're paying for, like on mine, I don't have it so that I can use it as a phone. It either has to be connected via Bluetooth or on my Wi-Fi here at home, because I didn't want another, as Ron was talking about, subscription, something. I mean, between Netflix and the magazine subscriptions and apps, I mean, it's just endless, and you can end up with hundreds of dollars just on subscriptions, and you don't end up using them all, and I just find it pointless. So,
Yeah, I think I need to talk to Verizon about taking something off my charge, because I'm not using I haven't got it connected to function as a phone, the watch.
Actually, you do, and that's what you're paying for. You might not use it that way, but it's all set up to use.
if you're paying for it.
Yeah,
I don't pay for mine.
I don't either. Yeah.
I just have it so that if my phone is within proximity to my watch, which typically they are, or if I'm at home and it's on Wi-Fi, well, then it just picks it up throughout the house.
Yeah, same with mine. Yeah. And
So
then sometimes I answer on it. It's not great, but it does okay, you know, as far as answering with it.
Right. And if it's somebody that you really need to talk to, it's enough for them to know that you'll call them right back, or yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else have one that can enlighten?
Kathleen got her watch first because when she saw the keynote on it, she had me order one immediately. And when my mother started living with us, we bought one for her, because one reason why she was living with us is she had fallen at her apartment in Bremerton and broken her leg. So we talked her into having the watches for fall detection, but she also, on her own, she figured out that she could check her blood oxygen level, and she didn't have to stick the little thing on her finger. She could just do it from the watch, and she could check her heart rate and EKG and all the rest of this from the phone. And she found that fascinating. And recently they updated the Apple Health app, which is on the phone, so that you can put your entire medication schedule into Apple Health. And if you do that, then the watch will prompt you when you need to take pills. and she thought that was kind of cute. I didn't know it could do that. My mother told me about that. So the integration between the phone and the watch is really quite high when it comes to health apps. And this fall, the next version of the iPad operating system will have the health app on it. Right now, it's limited to just the phone and the watch, but this fall they're bringing it to the iPad as well, which for me is useful because I have a keyboard for the iPad, and I'd much rather type a lot of that stuff into my iPad than sit there and poke at it one-fingered with my finger on this stupid little keyboard. So the integration is really quite high. Having said that, Kathleen told me to buy this phone for the health benefits. What I use it for mostly, I use it for voice memos, I use it for weather, I use it for the tides, I use it for the activity, I use it for Strava for mapping things out. Those are the things. I also use it to, I have a complication here to tell me the time in London. My daughter lives in England, and if I want to call her up on FaceTime, right now it's 3:34 in the morning, so probably not a good 3:54 in the morning, not a good time to call her. So what I use the watch for is mostly everything except for the health stuff, because the health stuff, it just keeps track of that and then occasionally bugs me about it if I'm not doing something. But like for example, the noise level, it never really occurred to me to worry about noise because I'm not wild about loud noises anyway. But coming down Fifth Avenue, as I mentioned earlier, they're doing construction on Fifth Avenue, and my watch buzzed to tell me, hey, it's too loud, go someplace else.
Yep. Mine does that when I'm mowing the lawn even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I was an example that Peak Finder, I went and took a look at that, and it wants your Apple ID to download that. Is that normal?
Yes, it is, because what you're doing, think about it from a security standpoint. You are taking something from the Apple store and you're putting it onto your device. And so Apple wants to know, are you really the person that it should be sending it to? And you want to know that it's trusted. So you are telling Apple to trust your device, and you're telling your device to trust Apple to transfer it onto your phone, onto your phone or onto your Mac or whatever. So it's always going to ask you for your Apple ID, and your Apple ID is something that it's something that you should definitely know what
But
that
this
is.
asked, I thought, for the password.
Yeah, it does that too. I mean,
Yes.
it'll ask you for your ID and your password, but once you get that locked into your device, then you don't have to put it in every time.
I understand, but I guess I'm leery about putting out my Apple ID and password on to into an app that I know nothing about who created that or anything.
Well,
Right,
yes, but you're not sending it. You're not sending your Apple ID and password to the developer. You're sending your Apple ID and password to Apple, and that's perfectly logical because they run the Apple ID service, so they should know who you are, and you should know who they are.
So as long as it's coming from Apple.
Apple.
Yeah.
And all of your apps that you get, at least currently, all your apps that you get for your phone and your iPad and your watch will all be coming from Apple, the Apple Store. Sounds like in the future, maybe federal laws or at least European.
Maybe the Europeans.
Yeah, they're changing it there, so that might make it happen here too. I hope not, because that's one of the big things about Apple is their security is so good because they control everything and they weed out the bad stuff.
Yeah. This fall, for example, I'm guessing that the new Apple phones, when they come out this fall, are going to have a USB-C connector, because the European Union said that
Dictated it, yeah.
Yeah, they dictated it. And since it's going to be cheaper for Apple to make one version of the phone, I'm guessing we're going to get USB-C connectors on iPhones as well.
They should have done that with 14 already, because when I got my iPad Pro, I don't know, a couple of years ago, it already had the C. So I was already, I don't know. It's just stupid to have two cables. Like, what, I can't use the same cable for my iPad as I can for my phone.
I am aware of that problem because I experienced that as well.
Probably daily.
The other nice advantage, this is completely off the topic of apps, but the USB-C connectors, assuming that you have the right kind of charger, will be able to charge your devices faster because it supports more current than the lightning cable. The lightning cable, it looks like it's just a wire, but it's actually got electronics inside of it that, among other things, keep your device from getting overcharged. And USB-C has that as well, but it's for a different standard, and so it'll charge things faster. We found that out when we have an Apple Watch charger for the original Apple Watch, and I got a, whatever my watch is, 8 or something. I don't remember what my watch was, and it came with a USB-C charger, and it charges in about half the time as the old one. The old one's based upon a different version of the USB standard, and the new one, it just charges it faster, which is cool. Anyone want to talk about apps?
I just wanted to ask Steve what he was, when you mentioned getting together outside of SMUG in regards to maybe specific apps, or could you elaborate more on what you meant?
Well, some users groups have what they call special interest groups within the user group, which are people who, for example, might want to learn more about the watch, or in my case, more about iMovie. And those groups could elect to meet outside of the regular meeting time on different days, or different places, that sort of thing. But they'd be focused on whatever that special interest is, whether it's the watch, the calendar, maps, photography, that sort of thing. I was just thinking that, we're about to the point where we could have in-person meetings. So I mean, I'm fine doing the Zoom meetings for our regular meetings, but if anybody was interested in meeting outside of our regular meeting time to focus specifically on iMovie, I'd be all for it, because I want to learn more about it.
One of the first SMUG meetings that I came to was a gentleman, I don't remember his name, who came and talked about iMovie. I was a little bit disappointed because he limited his talk to iMovie on the iPad, which is kind of a subset of a subset. And so it wasn't as useful as I would have thought if he demonstrated on the Mac. But I'm all in favor of that sort of thing. If we come up with some topics, we can either just announce it to everyone and on a different day, or we can make that the meeting topic. And I also like the idea of having more in-person ones. The in-person meeting we had at the start of June, there weren't that many people there, but they weren't the same people who came to SMUG meetings. So I got a different audience, and that's useful. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with virtual meetings. A lot of people who've been in government associate virtual meetings with committee meetings. And those who weren't in government associate virtual meetings with being kind of a poor TV. They'd rather talk to people in person. Also, the kinds of questions that I get here in a Zoom meeting, you ask a question, everybody hears it. But in in-person meetings, people come up afterwards and they say, I did something stupid on my computer. Can you help bail me out? And they'll say that to me privately, but they don't want to say that to everybody. So it's a different type of atmosphere for an in-person meeting.
So I have a question for you, Lawrence, since I'm going to be the one that has this stupid problem. Something happened. Make a long story short, I had an old Mac Mini. We're going back my daughter's 18, so maybe 15 years, 16 years. And somebody, and will not mention names, took the hard drive out and then put a bigger hard drive in it. And then that hard drive got taken out, and now it looks like World War III. So I have internal hard drives that aren't in the Mac Mini anymore, and I probably have not. So I have external ones and ones that were actually in the Mac Mini that don't have a case, so I can't just like plug them in with a USB into a computer to see what's on it. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Like I need a shell to put it in.
They're very common.
I'm sorry, what was that, Ron?
They're very common. You can find them, and they're easy to use. Depending on the interface that your hard drive has, it'll have 25 pins back there, or it'll have some other interface on the back of the drive, and it plugs into that, and then on the other side is a USB. So it's really easy to use. Some of them even have multiple different interfaces that you can plug it into, either that 25 pin or 12 pin, depending on what it is. But they're made for plugging in a loose hard drive so that you can get the data off of them.
Yeah.
Or you can use them that way if you want to.
I have, I call it a disk toaster, and I can't show it to you right now because it's plugged into a different computer, but it looks like a small toaster, and you take a bare hard drive and you just plug it in, and it makes a connection. The disk toaster thing is a little on the expensive side. It's like 60, 70 bucks, but I use it all the time, so I don't care. You can also go out and get inexpensive cases that are like 50 bucks, and you put it into the case, and you're basically building your own external drive that way. A good place to look for things like this is Other World Computing. Type it in as 3 different words and look for drive cases and drive docks, and it'll give you a variety of those to play with.
So my question though is, so I understand what you're telling me, but I am so novice to it because I am really not a desktop user at all. I'm a mobile user, and I don't even have a desktop computer. So what I was wondering, is there anybody, Lawrence, that could help me, or Ron, or Steve, I don't know, that would be willing to help me take all my external hard drives that some were in computers that do not have a case. I don't know how to order a case. I don't know what I'm looking for. You're talking pins. I kind of know what pins mean, but so I have like a bag full of these external hard drives, terabytes and terabytes, and they've been copied and put on here. And somebody says, oh, all your pictures are all on here. But then something happens and they're not all on there. I just literally want all these 10 items put on one hard drive that I can say it's all here, and I don't have to worry if I lose any of these externals, that I have one external hard drive that I can plug into a computer, and then I can try to figure out how I'm going to sort my pictures. But
okay, my suggestion is that if you were to pick one of the drives, so that I can, well, pick 2 if they're different sizes, but physically sized, like you might have 3.5 and a 2.5 drive.
Wouldn't they have to be the same size if they were from the same Mac Mini?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, but you see, the original Mac Mini had a 3.5-inch drive, and then later on they had smaller ones because
it's a real old one. I mean, we're going back like when the Mac Mini first came out.
Okay. You need two things. One, you need to provide the drive for me to play with and see if I can do it. The other thing is you need to get a UCSB, you need to get a USB flash drive stick. And this is, where's my camera? There's my camera. This one has a USB end on it. And the reason why a USB-C end on it, you can go into Amazon and order them. but get one big enough to hold what you think that needs to be rescued out of the drive. And if I can get the drive to boot, and if it's that old, it's kind of iffy. If I can get the drive to boot, I can copy the contents onto a USB drive. I can then give you the USB drive and you can plug it into your iPad.
Yeah, I have a drive like that that's at least 2 terabytes, if not 4. It might be 4, and it's a tiny little thing, and it just plugged into USB-C on one end, and then USB something or else on the other end, and I have it plugged into my and I have that plugged into the back of my iMac.
But if you give me a flash drive that's got a USB-C, and make a guess as to how big you need, like if it's 256 gigs, 500 gigs, you can get them on Amazon. And then give me the flash drive, give me the drive, and I'll see if I can get stuff off of it. But that way you don't have, I can give you back the drive, but I can also give you the flash drive, which you can plug into your mother's computer or into your iPad and do with it whatever you wish. And that way you don't have to worry about what's on the drive anymore. And by the way, if you ever take the drive out of an old machine, which I highly recommend that you do, and if you're not going to use it anymore, go into your garage, take out a hammer and just beat it to death.
See, it wasn't that it wasn't good anymore. It was that they were so tiny at the time that we bought, or it was actually my mom's old Mac Mini, that then it has, what did they have then? Maybe 60 gigabytes was like, and you were like, wow, that's a lot of memory. Yes, 18 years ago or whenever that first Mac Mini came out. And so there was never really anything wrong. It's not that the computer didn't work anymore. I mean, as you can probably imagine, there's no more updating it. I mean, I don't know if Snow Leopard or something. I think Lion might have been the last thing that ran on it.
No, no, probably not.
But we were still on the cats.
Before we go, 2 things. I want you to think about what we do next month, and I would like to show you some strange apps because I am the strange type. So I'm going to share my screen while all of you think about what it is you'd like to do. And we're talking about BB Edit. This is BB Edit, and I'm going to drag something into BB Edit, and this is a bookmarklet. And a bookmarklet is just a text file that you get when you bring up a web browser, and the web browser goes someplace, such as this is. And it doesn't like this because I'm streaming at the same time. Anyway, this is a website. This is my website. I can come up here to the address bar and drag the address of that website to your desktop, which you think, well, that's kind of silly. Why would you do that? Well, if I double click on it, I can launch that site again. Or if I drag it into BB Edit, it'll actually take the text out of that bookmarklet and show it on the screen in BB Edit. But you can use it for programming a lot of other things. I use BB Edit often for stripping out complicated formatting from Word when I want to stick it up on a website, because Word does weird things. And so that's what BB Edit looks like. And it does a lot of useful things, but I'm not going to show you that because it would be complicated. I could spend a week talking about BB Edit. Here, this is a Finder window. And if you look at the dates, let's see if I can blow up the screen a bit. You'll look at the dates. It says that these files are recorded December 31st, 2047 at 1:08 in the morning. Well, December 31st, 2047 is a ways away. And I would like to get these to be a more current date. Now, these are from the these are video from my church service on Sunday. And I like to be able to find things by date. And it's very difficult for me to know what date something is if the USB drive says they all came from 2047. However, I can launch Terminal, which is a program that's running on your Mac all the time and you don't know that it's there, but just ask the, I'll show you the hard way. If I come here and I say terminal and spotlight, it'll launch terminal. And I can tell it to go to that folder. And I'm going to tell it to change directories to go to that folder by cheating. And now I'm in the folder. If I tell it to list the files, and I'm doing this in Unix, so it looks strange, it says that this is December 31st, 2047. Not useful. Well, I'm going to use a Unix command called touch. And I'm going to say touch and then an asterisk. An asterisk is a wildcard, meaning no matter what you see, touch it. And what touch does is it changes the date. So instead of December 31st, 2047, it says it's July 18th at 2011, 8/11. And it did that because it knows what the time is. When I said to touch it, it just touches the files. So now when I come here, it says that these were all created today, which is a lot, it's decades closer than what it said before. Since I'm in terminal right now, I might as well, can I blow this up? Yes, I can. Terminal is also useful for silly things, such as I was born on Chinese Independence Day. What day of the week was that? Well, there's a calendar built into the computer. So I just said cal, and it gives me the current calendar, July. If I say cal 2023, it'll give me the entire year at once, 2023. Well, October 10th, 1911 was the Chinese independence. That's when China overthrew the Manchu dynasty and became a republic. So I can say cal 1911, and it says that October 10th in 1911 was on a Tuesday. So if you want to know, I was born on a Tuesday, assuming that I was born in 1911. I probably don't look quite that old, but you can also do it for strange things. You can ask, if you've never used calendar, you can ask cal man, and it gives you directions, it'll give you a manual for the calendar command. And it's got things that you can do with the calendar. And there's a note here about September 2nd, 1752. And I'm not going to bother to show you that. I'm just going to cal 1752, because something interesting happens in 1752. Look at September.
They skipped a week or something, or 2 weeks.
1, 2, 14, 15, 16. What happened in September of 1752?
Did they adopt the Gregorian calendar?
That's when they adopted the Gregorian calendar. And they did this because the Julian calendar was getting increasingly out of date. Pope Gregor adopted the Gregorian calendar for the Roman Catholic Church decades earlier, but because the Henry VIII decided that the Church of England was going to be different, the UK was not, actually UK didn't exist at that time, but England was not on the Gregorian calendar, it was on the Julian calendar. But in September of 1752, they switched. So you miss basically 2 weeks. This caused huge amounts of problems because when did people die? What happened to people who were born? Did people miss their birthdays? If you were born on September 3rd, when was your birthday? This was caused all kinds of hate and discontent, and it took years for it to change. But it's an interesting, you've got an infinite calendar. You want to know what happens? It said that those files were from December 2047. So let's type cal 2047. And that's the calendar for the year 2047. You can even go get really fancy. Cal 3000, that's the calendar for the year 3000. But that's built into your Mac. All you have to do is learn how to use Terminal. If you ever want to have a meeting where we talk about Terminal, I'm more than willing to get into that. But there are a couple other things that I thought might be of interest. Let's go to, there is a program that I use fairly often because I have a lot of files that I want to rename. Like these, this that says record 1080p 121 blah blah, that doesn't tell me what it is. And I found a application called a Better Finder Rename that allows me to rename all kinds of things, all kinds of files all at once. So I come up here and I say text and I tell it what to look for. And so I'm going to grab part of this file name. Just part, copy, and I say action, replace text. I'm going to tell it to look for record 1080p and say Trinity worship. And I say, apply that to all of these files and drag these files over here so it knows what I'm talking about. And for whatever reason, it decides it's going to take a while. And it gives me a preview. It's going to, it used to say record 1080p, and now it's going to say Trinity worship 120, 121, 22. Not the best name in the world, but that's what I want to do. I say perform rename. It says, do you really want me to do that? Rename all. And it changes all four. Now, I don't do this when I'm only looking at 4 files, but when I go out, for example, I went out and took 253 photos of the Port Townsend Aero Museum, which is in Port Townsend. I did that on Saturday. And so I have a whole bunch of images that just say it's image 1956, 1957, 1958. Doesn't tell me anything about it. With a Better Finder Rename, I go through and I just batch load all of those and I say, that's the Port Townsend Aero Museum, 1953, 1954, 1955. So it tells me where I took the photographs. If you're a photographer, it's much less trouble than trying to do all of that at once, one at a time. So those are a couple things that I use fairly often, is the text, the terminal for doing strange things, and Better Finder Rename for renaming huge numbers of things at once. The most that I ever did is I renamed 10,700 photos at once. Even with this batch filer, it took a while, but I didn't care because I was having lunch. Okay, those are my contributions. Any questions? Yes.
I just had one more app that people might be interested in. It's called Skyview.
Yes.
And, Ron's probably heard of it. Basically, you're out there and you're looking at all these stars, and you, with the app on, you point your phone at it, and it will tell you the stars, the planets, and the constellations. So it's a good fun one.
Yeah,
So, and it's free.
A couple a month ago, you could see Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn at the same time. But if you were wondering which of those 3 spots were which, you take Skyview and it'd say, this one down here is this one up there is that. It's a really useful application.
Yeah. Star Walk 2 and Solar Walk 2 both do astronomical things like that too, where you hold up your screen and it'll identify things for you. There's also a satellite finder. Yeah, I have almost 600 apps on my phone, so that's why I had lots to share.
Oh, I wanted to mention one thing that's on your Mac that you probably don't even know that you have. There used to be an app called Shazam, and it was useful when I was in the dentist's office. I was in the dentist's office, and this really interesting song came up, and I thought, what is that? And I asked the people there, and they said, I don't know. Well, with Shazam, you fire up Shazam, and it listens for a few seconds, and it'll tell you what the song is. Well, Shazam is now built into the iPhone. Its icon is right down there, but you don't normally see it. You have to go into your iPhone and go to Control Center and add it. And then you can add Shazam, and it'll sit there and it'll just listen to the music and tell you what it is that you're listening to.
I use Shazam, the app, separately, and it has a auto Shazam now. I don't know if that one you're talking about does, but
No.
Say for instance, if you're going to be, I don't know, taking a shower and you might have time for 3 or 4 songs, and you want to turn it on before you get in there because you can't have it identify, you can't hit the button to Shazam it. If you hold down the button for an extra couple seconds, it'll turn on auto Shazam, and then it will name all of the songs that it hears after that until you turn it off again.
So question, how do you find that in
You fire up settings, and then you go to Control Center, and Control Center lists a whole bunch of things that you can do. And it's not called Shazam anymore, it's called sound recognition, but it will sit there and tell you what song it's playing. And the reason Apple did this is they bought Shazam. So but you can add things like something to change text size, stopwatches, notes, low power, home, guided access, dark mode, announce notifications. Don't ever do that, drives you nuts. Alarms, accessibility, shortcuts, hearing, quick note, sound recognition, music recognition. Oh, it's music recognition. It's Shazam. And wallet, voice memos, all kinds of things you can add to your phone, and you get to them just by pulling down from the top right corner, and they pop up and you pick what you want. The one I probably use the most is the magnifying glass, where somebody gives you a prescription and it's got all this fine print on it, and you're trying to find out, and you read the fine print. It says must not be used if you are suffering rabies. Oh, okay, nice to know. If you like reading fine print.
Is Shazam or sound recognition on the laptop as well?
I know it's on the phone. I don't think it's on the laptop. No. No, they don't normally put things in Mac OS that requires that you move, because if you have a desktop machine, it's kind of inconvenient.
Right.
Right. This one woman, she had a 27-inch iMac, and she had a problem at my user group in Washington State, in Maryland. And I'm sitting up on stage, and there are 500 people there. And this woman, she was probably about the age that I am now. She came in struggling with this 27-inch iMac. And she did it because she wanted to show me what happens when she started the machine. So she waited until after we did a presentation. I went out and set it up in the lobby. And all it was is that she was getting this icon because her battery, the iMacs have a battery inside. The battery was low. And so it thought that the time was sometime in 1993 or something. I don't remember what it was, but it was easy to diagnose. It said, yeah, your battery's low, and you did not need to cart the whole thing in here to show me that. But so things that are helpful when you move around are going to be on the iPhone long before they're going to be on the desktop.
Ron?
Yes.
What was that app called that you were talking about? It's Solar something?
Solar Walk.
Walk. Okay. I have the Sky View, but I'd like to try something new. So Solar Walk. Okay.
Yeah, that's for things associated with the sun, but there's also Star Walk, And that one is more like your sky one that you were, sky view, yeah.
Yeah.
A bunch of them. And if you're really into astronomy, there's one called Red Shift. It's an awesome program, but it costs, it's probably $20 or so, if I remember right. But it's really detailed.
Yeah,
Mine
the
isn't so much that I want it detailed. My biggest problem is, so I'm wherever I am pointing the camera at the sky, well, it sees all the constellations and it sees all the whatever, but I physically can't see it. So I just want to know if there's something that I can turn on or off that what my camera physically sees, it actually will only show me that. Does that make sense?
The speaking of which, the Skywalk and Redshift, you can also get it in a version that if you have a motorized telescope, celestial telescope, you can hook the phone up to it, say, you know, show me Polaris or something, and it'll make the telescope, it'll whip the telescope around actually fairly slowly, but so it'll point at Polaris, so that you don't have to. I don't know if you've ever used a telescope where you have there's a finder scope and you look in the finder scope forever and you think that's it, and then you look at it with the big scope and nope, that's not it, and it drives you nuts. With your phone using these programs, it'll actually control the computers and motors on the telescope and point it in the right direction. Really, really cool stuff. I don't happen to have that kind of telescope, but
yeah, I don't either, but I've always wanted one.
yeah, but I'm in the same boat there.
Yeah.
What are we doing next week? Next month? Next week I have jury duty, so I'm doing boring stuff. Ooh.
You're going to show us all the secrets about Apple's maps.
Yeah, you asked the question that I'd never really explored. He wanted to know if you can make custom maps in Apple Maps, and it got me curious because you can do that in Google Maps, but I don't know. I've been exploring that. I read some directions from people who said that they could do it, but then I actually went through the steps, and what they were doing was stupid and not terribly useful, but it's a worthwhile thing to have. When we were coming across country, we made a custom map in Google Maps, so that we wanted to stop in Vicksburg because I'm an historian, and Vicksburg is where Grant essentially killed the Confederacy, even though it took the Confederacy a couple of years to realize that. And we stopped at Meteor Crater in Arizona. It's the largest intact meteor crater on the planet, and it smacked into Arizona and left this really big gulf divot. So we just mapped out where we were going and guessed on how long it was going to take, and then we made reservations at motels because it was the summer season and we didn't like being stranded. When we moved to Maryland in 1991, we did not make reservations, and we spent one night in the parking lot of a Methodist church in Arizona because all the hotels were full. And my daughter, who was 5 at the time, would bring that up for years afterwards about what a terrible experience that was, and her parents really should have done a better job, and so
We had that same problem on the Oregon coast. We went down there and we had, just to spend the weekend, spur of the moment type thing, and we wound up having to drive all the way home. We didn't live here; we lived over in Bothell area.
Yeah.
Farther.
Well, send me your ideas on what you'd like to do next month. And I'd like more than just the Apple Maps idea, because I'm not sure I can show you anything useful, but if I can, I'll show you something with Apple Maps. Apple Maps is actually much better than it used to be, but when it comes to making custom maps, I don't know if it does that. So send me your ideas on what we can do in August. And if nobody has any ideas, we might just take August off and go chase gooey ducks or something. Thank you. Good
Buoys
night.
have a really long lifespan,
Yeah,
Do they?
like 80 years or something like that. It's crazy. I can't remember now, but Google it and you'll see.
Oh,
Okay,
night.
thank you. Thank you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
thank you.
bye-bye.